Today we will cover an index finger, an 1898 romance by the anonymous Tulis Abrojai. A man wandering the road meets Curtis, a young girl who admits to hiding letters all about the forest, which she sends to her people, and assumes they will get them somehow. These other people being on a different planet where Curtis used to live before she was born on Earth, and which she sometimes meets. After growing up and marrying a good-for-nothing waste of a man, Curtis gets a station at a newspaper with the super-skeptical editor Preston, who is very much in love with her, but he dies. Meanwhile, Chrysalin, Curtis's friend, is menaced by her husband wanting to slit her throat one night, and Curtis has to talk him down. He drinks himself to death shortly after. Then she discovers her friend Chrysalin can talk to the dead via a planchette, and the story just stops permanently. So Prescott and other dead people can come in for a chat, just to go on about how the Earth is only a school to prepare you for life after death, which seems to consist of nothing really, as they only blather on about platitudes about spiritual and moral growth, but nothing tangible, so to speak. This also means that roughly 50% of chapters after this will just be the author pausing to re-pontificate about good and evil, how death isn't death, or why only eternal life gives life any meaning. Curtis doing nothing but looking for people to tell all this to over and over. Then she decides she has to leave her spot at the newspaper and move to make her fortune in New York specifically for reasons unstated. Curtis, even before she gets to New York, immediately contemplates suicide because of a move she insisted on herself. Then she meets someone who knew Preston who gives her a job and calls it a miracle, where I would call it quite a commonplace occurrence of no great cosmic significance. Then she has a chat with one of the artists on the paper, and she inspires him to leave his job forever, with a ton of pointless philosophizing, of course. Funny how a conversation with her can make him resolve to never come back, consequences be damned. But the author insists it's not because she's unbearable. The Hanleys, Curtis's old friends, then arrive in New York to look for a place on stage after their financial ruin. And after being snubbed for a bit, Lila Hanley offhandedly mentions to Curtis how if they didn't believe in the eternity of the soul, they'd kill themselves and probably their children too. And yes, this comes right the hell out of nowhere, in the middle of the usual claptrap about spiritual progress. Then both Lila's sons and husband die anyway. She is happy they are dead, so only she gets to stay behind to have contact with, quote, shallow, inferior people. When Curtis meets Chrysalin again at the hot springs, Prescott shows up despite being dead, but all he can think to do is play the piano very loud and leave, to denote how Chrysalin will die the following morning, and she does. After Curtis gets fired unjustly, she thinks about the brilliant book she wrote, which fickle publishers pushing out schlock for the poor masses reject. This does not seem personal at all, by the way. Then she gets told not to worry about earning a living, and she doesn't and gets an inheritance. It's that easy apparently, and she uses it to self-publish a book no one will touch. Of course everyone buys it and she gets rich, while all the critics are all scoffy and wrong in their wrongness and superiority. Again, nothing personal, I bet. Then for some reason Curtis is dying, but that sure doesn't stop her from having a 20-page monologue about how everything is just love actually, the thraldom to material gods, the oneness of humanity, etc, etc, etc. The tedium of this book is summed up by said monologue also having her thank God that we can't achieve contentedness anywhere in the universe. So not while reading this book then, eh?